Hey guys, I'm Zoha of Zoha Means Light, and this is my channel. And I decided to go live today because boundaries have come up a lot in the conversations around me, and so I just wanted to quickly um, go over establishing healthy boundaries because yeah, we've been seeing a lot of weird stuff, and I personally have been watching people struggle with creating boundaries and establishing them consistently. And I remember a time in my life where I had a difficult time creating boundaries and a hard time trying to figure out what clear boundaries looked like for me. So I wanted to give some quick tips around creating boundaries. Let me turn this TV down. Trying to talk, and my daughter has her iPad and the TV on in the background. So, all right. So, I want to talk about quickly about creating healthy boundaries and some uh, things that have worked for me. Hi, how are you? Thanks for hanging out with me. So, the first thing is boundaries are. I always I just had this conversation with my children about 2 weeks ago, and I asked them, "What is a boundary?" And they said, "It's stuff when somebody do does something you don't like." And they're 9 and 12, so they get that that's basically the basis for that, like something that doesn't feel comfortable to you, that makes you feel disconnected, gives you anxiety, that makes you feel unsafe, that takes you out of your comfort zone. And we encounter different things that take us out of our comfort zone all the time, and that's fine. That's life. That's a part of life, right? But the issue is with boundaries is that usually we are implementing these in spaces where we're supposed to be loved and protected and respected. Okay? And in spaces where we aren't, right? So there's many ways to enforce boundaries. I'm gonna talk about is relationship boundaries, right? So when you think about a relationship, it's a space where you want to feel safe, you want to be able to express yourself, and you want the other person to feel that as well. It's a two-way street, right? And that any blockage of those things is going to cause an issue. It's going to breach someone's boundary and possibly cause an identity issue for you or the other person, or hey, David, or cause a fracture in your psyche or your understanding of who you are, right? And this is hi Mario. Starts to do things that are out of character for us is because we don't have boundaries. As a young person, I didn't have a lot of boundaries, and so I did a lot of things to get in, to fit in, to be a part of the crowd, and it got me in a lot of trouble. A lot of it got me in trouble, mainly because I didn't know how to say no. I'm uncomfortable. This doesn't feel good. I don't like it, and it's because I grew up in a home where that wasn't acceptable. I grew up in a space where telling someone that I didn't like something wasn't heard. So when I left the house, it was very difficult for me to implement that practice for myself in the real world with my friends, or with people who were not my friends, or even young people in my group, or older people who were trying to harm me. And this is why boundaries are so important, right? So just first, really just assessing what makes me feel good, what makes me feel safe, what makes me feel comfortable. Is that available in these spaces that I'm in? Is it here? Is it in the room? And if it's not, what's up with that? Why am I in this space if this thing is not available to me? Now, sometimes there are things like jobs and things like that where we have to be a little uncomfortable, and we don't get to have all of our boundaries appreciated because we have to survive, right? But then there's other spaces like friendships and relationships where it's not life or death for me to be in your space, right? Or survival for me to be in your space. So these boundaries need to be implemented. And the first thing I ask myself when I feel uneasy around someone, what is that? What is that discomfort? What is going on? What am I feeling? What am I seeing? What am I hearing that's triggering my safety or my comfort, right? Big sign that there's some, you know, something in the room that I either noticed and wasn't honest about, or I didn't notice and now it's very glaringly obvious to me, and now I need to tap in and establish what it is that's not working for me. And now this is the hardest part, right? Speaking up for yourself and saying, I don't particularly agree with or enjoy or want to participate in this behavior, right? Now, most of the times it's really hard when you're in a friend group, especially if you're younger, to say something like that because, you know, especially teenage and kids age, you want to fit in, you want to feel like a part of something. It's very important to have community. Um, but the reality is that there are people out here who have the same feelings, who want the same things you do, who need the same comfort and all of that that you desire. And that is the community that you should be interested in connecting with. Okay? um, Sometimes we're born into communities that are not safe. And so we have to disconnect from those communities that don't make us feel safe, don't make us feel loved, don't make us feel cherished, don't make us feel wanted or secure, and branch out and be by ourselves for a little bit and behave in the way that we want to other people to behave around us, so that we can then create or attract the community that works best for us. Now, I'm always a fan of cold stopping people. This is how I had to do it when I moved from my teens to my late teens to my early 20s. I would just say, I absolutely do not want to be here, or I'm not interested, or I don't want to go, and just leave. Now, a lot of times I would end up being, the person that people really didn't like, because they were like, oh, she's always got a problem, or um, she's always complaining, or something like that. And that would always signal to me back then that, you know what, um, if I don't feel comfortable, if I don't like something, I get this innate feeling that this makes me feel very uncomfortable. I need to move with that feeling. In the past, when I hadn't moved with that feeling, I would end up in situations that were more uncomfortable than saying I'm uncomfortable. So I started to just basically just abruptly disconnect from people like around me, and that really worked for me. It might not work for a lot of people, but that's a suggestion that I have for people who are looking to create boundaries. Sometimes you just have to cut it off like immediately, like, yo, I'm not going, everybody's going to the club, everybody's trying to hang out. You get this feeling that this is not a good idea. You get this you just innately know this is not for me. Now, nothing bad could going to be happening to them, or nothing bad could be happening, but listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. That it is training you so that you can listen to yourself and see and feel things that other people are not interested in seeing and feeling, because they're more interested in having a good time or being a part of the group. And this is, how you build self-confidence and individualism. I remember one time my friends were going to a club, and I was going to go initially, and I said, you know what, we're in the car. It's 2000s DC. We're going to go hang out, and we're on driving from one part of the city to the other part of the city, and we're like halfway there, and I'm just like, let me out the car, I don't want to go. And everybody's like in the car, like, man, why are you doing this? We're gonna have a good time. Just go. Don't get out the car. And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I was like adamant, absolutely not. Pull the car over. I am not going. And I said it like that, so like nobody could like be like, oh, just go, whatever. And so they pulled over and they let me out the car. And as I'm getting out the car, I hear people in the back mumbling, oh, she's always complaining. She always got to be different, right? And at first, when I used to hear stuff like that, it used to really bother me, because it really felt bad. Being different felt bad. It felt so harmful to me at one point in my life. Like, I wanted to fit in for so long as a kid. So when somebody would say, oh, you're just trying to be different, I would try to combat that and go along with it. But at this point in my life, I knew I was different. And I was okay with being different. So when I said pull over the car, I'm not going. And I got out the car and I hopped on a bus and I caught 3 buses back uptown to where I lived. And that night when they came back, the car had gotten broken into and all their purses and everything got stolen. Now, I'm not saying that I knew that was going to happen. What I knew was I wasn't supposed to be there. And if I hadn't listened, of course, my purse would have got stolen too. And God knows what ordeal that would have created in my life. And this is why I'm saying, listening to your gut is important. You know what makes you feel good. You know what doesn't make you feel good. Why are you overriding what makes you feel good in order to do something that doesn't make you feel good? It's a payoff in it, all right? So the payoff for me in that instance would have been I get to hang out with my friends. I get to go to the club and have fun. I get to be young and 20. But that payoff was not good enough for me in that moment to risk whatever that gut feeling that I had that just didn't feel good. I was like, no, I'm just going to go home and go in the house and mind my business and chill. And that worked out for me. And since that moment in my life, I've been very more apt to listening to that gut feeling. And it's grown over the years. You always have to be honest with yourself. What are you trying to get when you don't like to do something or you don't want to do something or it doesn't feel good? That's the biggest thing. What is the payoff? What is on the other end of doing something that doesn't make you feel comfortable? And this could be anything. And this is where your boundary gets breached. This is where you end up in a situation that makes you feel supremely uncomfortable. And then you end up compromising yourself in a way that is beyond what you would have if you would have been honest, right? Okay? So I'm always, whenever I feel like I've crossed my boundary or somebody's crossed my boundary, I always have to ask myself, what was it in the moment that I was more looking at than listening to myself about this situation? And it's okay. It's not about being hard on yourself. It's about being honest with yourself about your character and your integrity, right? Because that's what keeps us safe. Like, being honest about who we are is what keeps us safe and keeps our boundaries intact and helps us grow as individuals and helps us move through the world in a way that is effective. Okay? So that's the main thing, is really just being honest about yourself, being authentic with yourself about what you want to create for yourself, and then establishing a boundary from a space that feels right for you. I cannot consider other people's issues, other people's feelings, if I don't feel good. We are taught to do that since we are little. Oh, be nice to them. Give that kid your toy. Say you're sorry when that person harmed you. All those things, right? We're taught all these, mismatched beliefs, which some, lead to us never really being able to create boundaries because we don't know who we are. We haven't established a sense of self. And so when we get older and we're trying to figure things out and we're like, oh, I think this is how this is supposed to go. And when you realize that everybody doesn't play the game the same way that you play it because you've been taught to sacrifice, to be a martyr, to allow yourself to be used in order to basically use someone back in the long run, because that's how we're taught. We're taught relationship from a calculation space, not from a love space, not from a true kindness space. We're taught from you do for me, I do for you. And honestly, that is not a way that interpersonal relationships are beneficial. If you're in a business, sure, that makes sense. There's money involved. There's time and energy involved. But a relationship is always in flow. It's always going and coming. No one can ever do as much for you as you do for them, and vice versa. The tit-tat will always wear you out. You'll never get what you put in and take enough to take out. It's just exhaustive to think about Thank you, Richard. It's just exhaustive to think about relationships in that manner. If you're always looking to get something out of somebody on the other end, you'll always feel empty, and you'll always feel used, and you'll always feel abused, and you'll always feel like your boundaries are being breached. You'll always feel victimized because it's just unhealthy. It's just an unhealthy way to look at people. People are not resources. I know that we live in a capitalist society and that we are taught that we are resources. We're treated like resources. That's how we go to work. We're paid by the hour for our labor for certain things, and then we buy things. You know what I mean? We're not clothes. we're people. You know what I mean? There's no infinite amount of energy source. You know what I mean? People die. So you can't treat yourself like that, and you can't allow other people to treat you like that. And that's why boundaries are important. It's why it's important to know what you like, what you don't like, and why you don't like it. And to implement those things wherever you are, in the spaces that are safe for you to implement them. And in the spaces that are not safe for you to implement them, to get out of those spaces with your mind and your body intact as soon as possible. And I know we have to work and do all those things where sometimes that's not possible, to remove yourself immediately because you have to take care of your family, you got to pay your rent, you don't want to starve, you don't want to be homeless, you have all these other overarching goals. But you have to understand, in those instances, you can't always apply all those interpersonal relationship boundaries to a job boundary. Now, there are job boundaries. I need to be respected and treated with respect. I need to be paid effectively. Thank you. I need to be paid for what I'm worth in this job, for my knowledge, my skill set. And when you feel like that boundary isn't being matched, isn't being honored, then that is your cue to either talk to your supervisor and explain to them your worth, which I really hate doing, but I know that's a part of the game, or to start doing research and find a space where you are better used for your talents and paid in the way that you desire to be paid. I've done it several times when I used to work. I used to go, and every year, because if you let them, they will let a raise cycle go by you and not give you a raise, or give you a 2% raise and be like, oh no. Every year I'm writing down everything I did every month. I'm compiling it, and then at the end of the year I'm going and I'm looking for people who do similar work as me. I was a community organizer. I would go and I would look and for people who did similar work as me, and look at the job descriptions that they had up, and look at the pay that they were paying, and I would compare my pay to the pay that was being offered out in the real world, and what I did and the level of expertise that I brought to this job, and what I wanted for my salary for the next year. And if that wasn't available to me, then I would look for another job. And that's how that has to work. It sucks, unfortunately, that you have to do that, but because we live in capitalist society, they're going to try to make you work so hard for nothing, because they have people who they can do that to. So if they can do that to everyone, then of course they will. They don't care. People are infinite resource to these types of people. They can get, as far as they're concerned, anybody could do your job. So you have to feel like, figure that out. I know someone just said something. Sometimes I think the world is trying to... No, the world isn't trying to use you. You just need to figure out what's your purpose. What's your design? What are you here to do? Sometimes we have to do something that we're not here to do until we figure out what we're here to do for. I did something that I was definitely here to do, community organization. I was definitely here to work with youth. I was definitely here to help teen mothers. I was definitely here to help women who were newly diagnosed with HIV. I was definitely here for all of that, but that wasn't my life's purpose. It wasn't the whole purpose. It was a part of the road to my purpose. It wasn't my whole design. It was a part of my design. And I think that every step your design unfolds for you. And you have to ask yourself, ask your higher self, what is my design? Reveal it to me. Open the way for me. Open the road for me. I'm ready to live in my purpose fully. And it's going to take time, because, it takes time to turn around a train, and you just can't, you're going full speed ahead one way. You can't just turn it around, it's going to derail, everything's going to fall off the tracks, and everybody's going to die. We don't want that. So you just act and you look for the signs, right? I didn't know that I would be a yoga teacher. I didn't know that I would be running my own business. I had no desire, honestly, to do any of this. I decided to do this because after 20 years of working with communities, I recognized that my individual one-on-one impact was much more important than it was to have a organization behind me that had their own agenda that was not in alignment with what I wanted for my people. You know what I mean? I was able to use some of their resources and do a little bit, but for the most part, their overarching agenda was completely against what I wanted for Black women and children and men. It was completely against it. And so me continuing to allow them to use my energy was in effect derailing my purpose. And so I had to step out and jump out there on faith. And luckily I had, you know, the foundation to allow me to leave my job and start my own business and, you know, get my yoga certification and start teaching and doing all the work that I do now. Like 8 years ago, I couldn't even have seen that I would be teaching yoga every day, that I would be talking at conferences, that I would be doing any of the stuff that I do. I didn't even see it, honestly, about about holistic health. I was doing all that for other people's businesses. I was doing all that for nonprofits here in Washington, D.C., and they were using my energy to do that, and that was fine for the time that it was. But when I recognized that I could not move their agenda and make my agenda their agenda, that they had their own agenda, I had to, you know, be honest about what I wanted to contribute my energy to. And also, when you have a dream, you have to be okay with downsizing a lot of your life in order to fulfill that dream. You have to be okay with, I had to give up my car, I had to give up my house, I had to give up a lot of things in order to be who I am now. So it was, you know, a lot of sacrifice to start over. It was a lot. But yeah, establishing those healthy boundaries is really what a lot of people are talking about on the internet. Most of the time when I see them, oh, I don't feel safe here, or I don't feel loved here, or I don't feel valued, the conversation I'm hearing is boundaries. You haven't established good boundaries. You don't know what makes you feel safe. You don't know who you are. You don't have self-awareness. And so when you get into a relationship or interpersonal space, you just allow certain things to happen because you think this is what you do because I love someone. You know, love has boundaries. Like, you know what I mean? Love has rules on some level. You have to tell people how to love you. You have to tell people how to be in your space. Otherwise, if they're used to trashing people's space, no matter how nice you are, how kind to them you are to them, if you don't tell them that they cannot do that in your space, they're not doing it because they don't love you or value you. They're doing it because this is who they are, and they haven't ever had anyone challenge that. Okay? Now, if they do that after you tell them your boundary, then you know that they don't deserve to be in your space. Now your boundary gets tighter. You pull your energy back even further so that they can either figure out how to, you know, show up in your space, or you remove them. And that's okay. Like, we live in a society where everything is like, you gotta have, collect this, collect these things, materialism, collect people, collect everything. If you only got you and one other person who respect your boundaries, that's good. I'd rather have, you know, a few people around me who love and value me enough to hear me and authentically. I'm not saying everybody's going to work on something and get it right away, but to make a note of it. Oh, she don't like that. I'm going to stop doing that. Or even if they catch themselves in the moment doing something like, oh, you know what? I forgot you said this makes you feel uncomfortable. I won't do that again. You know what I mean? If I'm your friend and I'm used to calling people the B word. If I'm used to calling my girlfriends bitch, you know, a lot of women are like that. Call it comfortable, call each other bitch, girl, you know, whatever. But you don't like me to call you that. And you say, hey sis, you know what? I know that's probably, you know, a part of, you know, normal part of our community or whatever. And people are used to talking to each other that way. But that makes me feel uncomfortable, and I really don't like being called a bitch. So if I'm around you, then and I value you, and I want to be in your life, I'm going to remember such and such doesn't like being called a bitch. So I have to make sure I don't call her that because I want her to feel good. I want her to know that I care about her. Okay? So when I'm around this friend, I will either be like, oh, you know what, girl, you know what I mean? Catching myself in order to make sure that I keep her boundary because it's important to her because she's important to me. Not because I'm scared of her. No, because I love her. And I think that's what gets mixed up in our community, in the black community, so often is when somebody places their boundary out there, most people here are like, I ain't no bitch. He ain't gonna be telling me what I can do and what I can't do. Yes, I am. This is my space. This is my 3 feet. What you do in it is my business. What you do in yours is your business. And because we haven't been effectively taught how to love each other from a space that is truly of one of value. I value you, so I value your time, your energy, and I value your needs and wants and desires. And if I can show up in your space in a way that's positive and that lends to your development, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. And it's hard to establish these boundaries, especially with family members who have been, overstepping your boundaries for most of your life, especially if you've been a kid and they've been overstepping your boundaries, like your aunt or your grandmother or something, and they've been overstepping your boundaries for most of your life, and now you're grown and you're like, I don't like this, and you're like, oh, girl, I've been doing this your whole life. Cool story, but not no more. This is not working for me. It has never actually worked for me. And now I need you to know that. Now I get it. You ain't gonna change your behavior because you've been doing this for your whole entire life. But try to keep in mind, I don't like this. So either you're not gonna do it, period, or you're not gonna be around me doing it, or you just won't be around me as much. And I'm gonna be okay with whatever that relationship looks like. Because this is my boundary. Mom, grandma, auntie, dad. That's not disrespectful. That's being authentic. We get that crossed up a lot of times when people want to tell you their truth. Oh, you being smart. You being disrespectful. No. I'm telling you, I don't like being when you do this thing you do, Mom. And you're like, I've been doing it. Good for you. I'm glad you're used to, pushing yourself with me and doing what you want in my space. Thanks for the whole life thing. Thanks for birthing me. That was dope. This ain't working for me. This behavior does not work for me. Does not make me feel good. And a lot of times, because my mom is like this, she'll say, oh, you're just being sensitive. Yes, I am. I am. I've always been sensitive. You just didn't care. It didn't matter to you. It wasn't something that you thought of as useful because you wanted me to be strong and accept anything. But that's not who I am. And I don't want to be that way. I'm okay with being sensitive. I'm very soft. I like everything very soft. When you're talking to me, I want you to talk to me soft. When you're engaging with me, I want you to talk to me, be gentle with me. That's how I best respond to things. Everything else, generally, I don't like it. I don't want to engage with it. And I don't like the feeling that I feel when people engage with me in that way. And it's going to take time for you to get to this place where you can say these things out loud. But the best thing I can say for that is just excuse yourself. Say, I got to go. I'm gonna head out. And people can say what they want. Oh, she always leave, or she got an attitude. So, yes, I do. And my silence is a beautiful thing right now because I'm being respectful as much as I can because I haven't figured out how to say these emotions out of my mouth without them being volatile. Because what you do is You shut down people so much, call them sensitive, tell them what they want is not okay, it's too much or whatever. And then they get so tight on the inside, they can't even express themselves. And then people say, oh, she don't like being around family. No, that's not it. She don't feel safe around family. Those are the words. She doesn't feel safe with you all. You don't make her feel safe or him feel safe. And so they cannot be in your presence. And now that's something, like if we're honest, we get to work on with our own selves when somebody tells you that. And it's not the first time these people have heard this. They're just so used to brushing it off, to acting like it's not a big deal, to acting like everybody else is the problem, because nobody treats them with kid gloves. Nobody makes sure they feel safe. Nobody makes sure they feel comfortable. But that's not your problem. That's their problem, because they don't feel safe enough or love themselves enough or confident enough to say, this is what I need. So they're going to tell you that what you need is too much, because they want you to just let go of your boundaries and let anything happen to you like they let anything happen to them. No ma'am, no sir, no way. I deserve to be treated the way that I desire to be treated. That's not too much. That's actually the bare minimum. It's the bare minimum. So I've been getting a lot of questions about boundaries, and so I thought I'd do this live. I haven't been on here in months. I haven't done anything on this channel except for upload yoga, because I honestly have I've been working on my boundary with YouTube. I put up so much content. People felt so comfortable commenting whatever they wanted on my videos that I had to just like take a step back, because I wasn't really comfortable with a lot of the comments. Some of the stuff I just wasn't fucking feeling, and I felt like it was out of pocket. And I don't like to cuss people out on the internet. That's not my deal. But I needed a break, because once you put yourself out there on the internet, then people can come to your page and say anything. I really wish that people would just scroll past and act like if they don't like it, they don't see they don't care, because that's what I do when I see something I don't like on the internet. I just scroll. I don't leave a note letting people know, oh, I don't like you, or you're ugly, or you're fat, or whatever the thing is. But I get that's just about pain, and a lot of people are in pain, and if they can impart their pain on you in some way, that's what they're going to do, because they're infected. They have a parasite that doesn't allow them to access their heart, and so they go through life harming people. And the internet is an easy way for people like that to thrive and to flourish. And so, just do my best to just get on here when I really have something to share. And so I thought today would be a good day for that. And I want to thank y'all for hanging in there with me. I know I haven't been making any content, but the podcast is still up. I'm there every week sharing everything that's in my heart and in my mind and my spirit. It's Salt Pepper Catch Up, the podcast on Apple. Me and my best friend Angel, we record every week. We share healing tips for anyone who's on their healing journey, and we talk about everything from the 7 deadly sins to movies, to just other healing techniques that we've learned and things that we explored on our own, and just come and share our different perspectives for other people to gain experience or exploration from. You know what I mean? Like, you don't heal in a vacuum. You heal in a community. You heal in a community. And that's my goal always in life, is to create community and create safe communities for everyone around me, and especially for Black people. And that's what this page is. It's a safe community for Black people. And that's why when I have, thank you, Richard, that's when I have, some Black people come and be negative, I worry for their spirits, because that's not really us. That's not who we are at the heart of things. We live in this society, and you're welcome, sir. We live in this society, and we are affected by the way that things are done here. And we have to do our best every day to wake up and clean off the filth of a lot of this society, so that we can be our best selves. I hope y'all have a good weekend. I appreciate you guys. Oh, Kenny is teaching yoga with me on the weekends now. If you want to do couples yoga, he's teaching with me on Saturday and Sunday evenings. The link is in my bio. I'm going to holler at you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. I appreciate y'all. I really do. Peace.